everyone, and welcome to another session of ENG4E. That's Grade 11 Workplace English, brought to you by WASA Distance Education Center. I am your instructor, Mike Laverty, and today's date is Tuesday, March the 21st, 2023. And we are on Class 21. And this will be our last class that covers material in Unit 3. So today's class will be devoted to the culminating activity found at the end of Unit 3. Yesterday we introduced the assignment and we did an online demonstration of how you could find some material to answer the question. So today's class we will once again review the basic required elements of the chorus, what you need to complete it, and I will continue with my live demonstration. So we are in week 6 of term 2A. This is a 9-week chorus, so we're about 2/3 of the way through at this point. The last day to register for term 2B is Friday, April the 7th. So April 7th is the last day where you will be registering for classes in term 2B. So if you want to register for classes in term 2B, the final term here at WASA, start thinking about it now. Start thinking about reaching out to one of the counselors at WASA and to think about how much time you've got left in this school year, and there'll be one after it, and one after that. So just pace yourself and know that for sure there's enough time to finish a chorus, maybe finish 2, but anything beyond that is going to require a lot of time and energy on your part. So just giving everybody a friendly reminder and to keep the graduation date of June the 15th in their minds, right? So once that date comes and goes, the school year is over and you've got to wait till next year to sort of pick it up and continue your journey towards your OSSD, your Ontario Secondary School Diploma, because that's what we're here for. That's what it's all about. But you just got to have a realistic assessment on how much time you can devote to this, because I know that you're all busy. A lot of the students have a lot going on in their lives, work responsibilities, family, your community. So it's a big commitment, and I applaud everybody for putting in the work to get it done, but I just want to make sure that you're being realistic about your time commitments. Okay, so we've got Unit 1 taken care of, Unit 2 is taken care of, and after today's class, well, tomorrow's class, we can put a check mark beside Unit 3, and then we'll move on to the final unit, Unit 4, before we devote some time to talking about the final exam and preparing everybody for that. ENG4E is broadcast Monday to Thursday, 2 p.m. to 2:55 p.m. 2 to 2:50 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're listening on 91.9 FM, thanks for tuning in. You can phone the studio at 1-800-465-7144. or by phoning us locally at 1-807-737-4017. Bell ExpressVu channel 972 is another listening option. And you can always go to zoom.ca and join us there. The meeting ID is 417-6699799. Search for the YouTube videos on Laverty WASA. Check out the playlist for ENG4E. So it's divided by playlist, so you can find out the information that you need to be successful. If you're having difficulties with a particular assignment, you can just go right to it. I do my best to put the assignments we cover in the description of the video and in the title if I can, and in the thumbnail, so you get an indication of where you're at. So if you're working on Unit 2, key question 23, for example, you should be able to see that information in the title of the video and in the description. Reach out to me at mlaverty@nnecschools.org. Hit me up on Facebook and Messenger at LavertyWassa. And phone the Wassa office at 1-807-737-1488. I'm at extension 2211. If you don't know who to talk to, you can always just hit 0, talk to the receptionist, and there's always someone who can help you out with that. Toll free, it's at 1-800-667-3703. So, please reach out to us here and someone can guide you through either on your overall journey towards getting your diploma or just help with a specific course, or if you got a question about a specific assignment, then think about that. So we're about 5 weeks into the course, so a friendly reminder that at this point you should have made contact with your teacher, should have read the study guide, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. And when I say read Unit 1s, 2, and 3, just read the entire handout. You should have completed the novel, Where the Rivers Meet. And Unit 1 and Unit 2, you should have all the assignments done and should be working on assignments in Unit 3. So I know that everybody works on different timelines and different paces and have different approaches and different things going on in their lives, but again, this is more about not kind of like being strict with a guideline. It's just giving you a sense of where you should be in the course after taking it for 5 weeks. And you should look at them. There's a reason why we sort of like divide these courses up into 9-week chunks. So 9 weeks of courses, 9 weeks of you doing assignments, and then a week or maybe 2 weeks of you preparing and studying for a final exam. So you should use that approach when plotting out your own time. So even if you're an independent learner, you should look to have these courses done in about 9 to 10 weeks. All right, so here's today's lesson. We'll look at the words of the day. We will look at the culminating activity, researching and analyzing forms. So this will be part 2 of doing that. And just like yesterday, I want you to take notes on the required elements. And I'd like you to review the PAIBOC, the PIBOC model. So that's where you look at a document's purpose, its audience, its information, the benefits it brings up, the objections it brings up, and the context. So use that model. So you're going to write notes as we look at some potential organizations and some potential sources for the information. And you're going to take notes while watching a live demonstration. So that's going to be an online search for documents, and I'm going to look at drafting an email or a voicemail message. All right, so as I've mentioned before, I don't speak the Anishinaabe-Moan language. I wish I did, but I like to use words from that language just because I know that so many of our viewers and students are Indigenous. In fact, most of them, if not all of them, are. And so I think it's important to infuse my lectures and classes with the language whenever I can. And I also like to do it as a comparison point. So looking at a few words in the Anishinaabe-Moan language, look at some words in the English language, sometimes comparing the two words, but just giving us different perspectives on language. So we have Onji Da. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Let me know if I'm not. That's an adjective, so it's a describing word, which means on purpose, intentionally. And then we have Anisha, which is an adjective, which is just for fun, just for nothing, not really, without purpose. So two contrasting words, and I think there's lots in life. There's lots of things that we do in life that should be done without purpose and should just be done for the sake of doing them. And I think that life is short and life is hard, and you certainly need to kick back and have fun, and your whole life can't be structured, and it's important to just give yourself that freedom to just to do things and just to enjoy life. But on the other hand, things need to be done with purpose, and it's a great word, with intentionality. So intention is like, it's what you want to do. And then sometimes when you live intentionally and you give much thought to how you want to live, it actually might give you more freedom for the anisha, for the stuff that's just for fun, just for nothing. But with this culminating activity, we are talking a lot about purpose. So that's the first word in that PIBOK model, and it's arguably the most important thing, right? So, good writing is often valuable writing. It's writing that people want. It serves a purpose, and sometimes that purpose can just be to have fun and to be entertained, right? Um, so it raises an interesting point. Is anything done without purpose? Can something be completely meaningless and just for the sake of doing it? Can something be 100% meaningful and have purpose? Right. So maybe I'm getting a little too philosophical here, but it's good to think about, right? And but I would argue that good writing, it serves a purpose. It does something for someone. It makes them happy. It makes them think. It teaches them new things. It gives them insights into the world. It teaches them a new skill. It helps them learn about a person, right? Makes them laugh, makes them cry, tells them a really awesome joke they can tell their friends, right? And then in English, I've got two words up on the screen. I've got aspiration, which is a strong desire, a longing, or aim or ambition. Another way of looking at the word is a goal or objective that is strongly desired. So it's something you don't have, or something you're working towards. You're aiming towards it. You have aspirations of doing something. We have intent, another noun, something that is planned, proposed, or intended. So purpose, design, intention. So what is your intent for this document? What do you want to see happen, right? What is your purpose in mind? What do you want to get out of this thing, right? And I think that especially with the focus of this course in this unit and the previous unit has been about looking at specific forms of business communication. And email is a good way of looking at that one too, right? Where like you can send someone an angry email or an email that's kind of like ranting and not thought out, and you know um, you got to think about your own purpose and what you want to get out of things. But then you also have to think about their intentions and what they want to get out of things, right? And when you send somebody a message, when you communicate with someone else, you got to think about your purpose, what you're trying to get out of this. What is your number one objective? What's going to be your success criteria, right? And then after you think about purpose, after that is your audience, right? So that those it's purpose and audience are closely related too, right? So um, you have your aspirations, you have your intention, you have your design for life, right? But how does that design fit into other people's design, right? How does your story fit in with their story, right? Once you've got your purpose and your audience figured out, then you can start getting into the information, the benefits, the objectives, and thinking about the context. How you're going to deliver the message, when you'll deliver it, how you'll deliver it, all those kinds of things. So, some important concepts to think about as we explore here. All right, so I just want to give a quick review of this before we get too far into it. So, this culminating activity is asking you to do some research. And then what you're doing is you're finding examples of forms. Um, so, and when we say researching and analyzing forms, we're not talking about like an application form or like that kind of thing. It's form in like the general sense on like how something is created. So when we analyze something, we're looking at its form, right? So when a molecular biologist looks at a chemical, or when a sculptor looks at their material, or like when someone looks at a painting, they look at its form, how it's formed, how it's actually made up, right? Kind of brings to mind our previous discussion on the word information, right? So the word information literally means that does not have form. It's informed, right? Um, so information is just like ideas, right? And then we give those ideas form and we give them shape by putting them into different patterns, by putting them in different formats, right? So that's what you're doing here. You're analyzing a document, and that document is in a very specific format. And you're analyzing it with a very specific model. So you need to look at the purpose of a document, its audience, its information, its benefits, its objections, its context. And we've talked about purpose a lot. Why was something written? Why are you writing this thing? What are you trying to get out of it? So if you're the reader of the document and not the one writing it, it's why would they write this thing? What were they trying to get out of writing this thing? What was their objective? The audience is who it was for, right? So who was supposed to read this business letter? Who was supposed to read this memo? Information is simply what's in the document, right? So I would, it's the information is really like what is being conveyed. And so think about the information as like, the message that is trying to be sent. The benefits and the objections, they go hand in hand with the information. So the benefits are the positive aspects that are being talked about, so the good things, and then the objections are like criticisms and things that are negative, right? So, for example, like a letter of recommendation is going to talk about the benefits of something. A letter of complaint is going to focus more on objections. And some documents, like a report, for example, might talk about benefits and objections. It might give like like a cost. Sometimes they call it like a cost benefit analysis, where you look at the cost of doing something versus like the good things you'll get out of it. Or like if you're weighing the pros and cons of trying to buy something or a particular service. And the context is the timing and the circumstance in which the event occurs. So like um, how the letter was delivered, where the document was shared, when it was shared, how many people it was shared with. Was it a protected file? Was it posted on a website? So that's important too. So just where you find it, who has access to it, all that stuff, right? So it's putting the document in context. So it's because you can always analyze a text like independently of like other texts, and but then you can also look at it in relation to other things and how it fits into the bigger picture. So just a reminder, you're looking at two business letters. So you find two business letters, you analyze one of them. You find two memos, analyze one of them, and then you find an instruction manual. And then if you go back to yesterday's class, we talked a bit about where you can find these things. But I will make the comment that if you do have a hard time finding them, that it's more than okay to find them online. And yesterday we talked a bit about doing a Google search for a memo. So I mean, maybe you've got some tricks, but I was having a hard time Googling business letters. Like I found many templates and I found many examples, but I had a hard time pulling up like actual business letters that were published by companies and shared on websites or on Google. So you might have to ask an organization if they can share a letter with you, but if not, I'm going to look at finding some of these letters online. So, and here's the breakdown of how the assignment works. So, you get 5 marks for each of your communication samples. So, that's a grand total of 25 because you'll have 5 samples and you get a mark of 5 for each one. And then you get a um, your analysis is as 5, so you'll do 2 of those, right? You'll do 2 analyses. One of the letters will have an analysis, and one of your memos will have an analysis. So you don't need to analyze the the instruction manual. You just need to produce it, right? So just make sure I've done my math correctly. So that's 5 times 5 is 25. 2 analyses brings us up to 35. Email message is 5. Voicemail message is 10. All right, so that's how that works. So you'll give me 5 samples. You'll analyze 2 of them. 1 business letter, 1 memo. You will send me an email telling me that you're working on the assignment, maybe a bit about the, what you've got in mind, some of the sources you've found, and then you'll leave me a voicemail message on my work extension. And then you'll for a grand total of 50 marks. All right, so what I want to do is I want to work on the I would like to work on the business letters. And so as I mentioned, I was having a hard time finding real examples of these business letters that were used. But what I did was I found a great article from Indeed.com. So I've mentioned Indeed.com in a previous lecture, and I really like this website. It's a great website if you're trying to find a job. If if you're trying to get hired, Indeed.com is a great spot where you can just look for jobs and apply for them, and just conduct your job search and hopefully find a career or a job that means something to you. But they also have like a community. You can create an account. There's lots of like online discussion forums, and then they have they have a section on their website called the Career Guide, and it gives you lots of useful information about, a lot of it's like it's not just about finding a job; it's about learning about how to do specific aspects of jobs and how to just become a stronger communicator, especially in a workplace setting. So Indeed.com, very useful website that I really recommend you go to. This article is called 15 Types of Business Letters and the Purpose of Each. So they've got lots of tips on writing business letters that talks about the formatting. But I like this article because it's very useful, and it provides you with 15 different types, so different kind of categories, and each one's got a different purpose to it. So, and the types they list are cover letters. So we've talked about that before, and we'll devote more time to it. So, so writing a cover letter when applying for a job. So that's a very specific kind of letter. And then so they have these like 15 kind of like broad like categories. So like cover letters, and then when you go to the cover letter, they even have specific kinds of cover letters, like an application letter, a letter of intent, a letter of interest, a inquiry letter, a query letter, a motivation letter, a transmittal letter, right? So, and if you click on one of them, so for example, how to write a letter of intent with examples and tips, then, excuse me, if we go down, most of these articles they follow a typical pattern where they'll give you some general context. So um, this one, for example, reads, much like a cover letter, a letter of intent is a general overview of your industry-specific skills, experience, and the reasons you're interested in working for a specific employer. This type of letter, also known as an intent letter or a letter of interest, focuses on the company more than your skills. Learning how to introduce yourself to an employer in a letter can increase your chances of finding a job at the company where you want to work. In this article, we discuss letters of intent in the job search process and how it differs from a cover letter. Plus, we go over when you can use one and share a few sample letters. So then it goes on to describe a little bit more about the cover letter. So a letter of intent is appropriate when you're submitting resumes to employers at a job fair, you're researching companies and you find an employer who believe best fits your interest and your career goals. You heard or someone told you that an employer is looking to hire, even if there are no jobs posted. The employer has jobs posted for other positions, but also employs people in your area of expertise, right? So the letter of intent, I'm assuming here from that discussion, is applying for a job. You're not applying for a specific job, but you are kind of talking to the company directly and just saying, look, I'd like to work for you guys. Here's my qualifications. So what they do is they break down the required elements, and these are going to be the same for most articles. They give you an example, and then they kind of give like a generic. Yeah, sometimes what they do is they give you a generic, a generic one that's not a specific example. So I would try to find I would try to find a more specific example, one that that talks about well, no, this one could work, right? They formatted it as an email, so I might find one of these that's not formatted as an email. So we have a letter of recommendation. Let's go to reference letter. I'm just gonna scroll down, and they have an example here at the bottom. All right, so what I could do is I could copy and paste this letter. I could copy and paste the text of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a Word document and just make sure I'm sharing that so you can see the Word document. So I've got myself a blank Word document, and I copy and pasted that text in there. I don't like that. I'm going to... When you copy and paste into a Word document, you get three options. You get exactly how it looked. Yeah, I'm going to do the merge. I'll do that one. I like how that looks. So I've got my letter. I would also like to just copy and paste the URL and put that in there. So I'm just going to put some notes to myself. This is Indeed.com. That's the hyperlink, right? So you have to identify the source when you give me the letter, right? So this is the source. So this is business letter example 1. So I'm gonna format my document as if I'm a student in ENG4E and I'm submitting this assignment. So you don't have to do it exactly. I do it. We don't really have specific formatting requirements, but these are just best practices, good things to follow. So at the top, I'm gonna if you're writing in a Word document and you double click at the top of the page, it opens the header. So I'm gonna type in my name. I like to use the pipes, which are like the vertical lines right above the enter key. So I'm going to put my name, the course code. I will put my community. And then I'll type in the name of the assignment. So Unit 4 Culminating Activity. Okay, now that's going to appear on all of my so this is going to appear on all of my pages, right? So I start a Word document, I put my header on here. I should probably save that document to the desktop. That's a good practice to go into. So I'm going to type it as Unit 4 ENG4E Culminating. Let's call it Culminating. That's good enough for now. So I've created a Word document. I put my header in. I've saved it on my desktop or any other location. You're going to know where to find it. If you're working in Google Docs, then you know it's important to create folders and just to know where you can find your stuff, right? So just simply knowing where to find information is really important. So keep that in mind. Right. So this is my business letter, example 1. And my source on this one is going to be Indeed.com, and then I've got the reference in there. So this is what I would be submitting to my teacher, right? So I've got my letter, I've got the example, and then on the second page, this is going to be my analysis, right? And when I do my analysis, I'm going to use that PyBoc method that we introduced yesterday, and we talked a little bit about it today. All right. I'm just trying to see if I had that from yesterday. 'Cause I know I started it. Okay, so yesterday. Oh, there we go. Okay. So in yesterday's class, we looked at a memo that was produced by the Sioux Lookout First Nations Health Authority. It was a memo on COVID-19 cases at the hospital. It was published on June 22nd. So if I take that PyBoc model and I'm going to apply it to this business letter. Let's see. Let's shrink that font down. And again, these are my notes, right, to myself. So it's kind of like a two-step process. And so, and again, these are notes to myself. I wouldn't actually. I would erase this before it's time to hand it in. So step 1 would be to fill out as much information as I can using the PyBoc model. And then step 2 will be to write my analysis. Using the information from step 1. So I like to do this when I write my papers and when I complete any of my writing assignments. And sometimes I might even, when I have a writing project on the go, it's a lot easier when you're doing this on a Word document. But if you're doing this the old-fashioned way with a pen and paper, you can do it that way too. But I've highlighted stuff in yellow it's not going to go in the assignment. It's instructions to myself, and then I'm only gonna delete those instructions once I feel like I followed them. But I think I need them up there, and they're going to be a reference for myself. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is to look at this model, right? And to look at this business letter. So since this was for a different assignment, I can erase all these, and I can erase it and not worry about it because I know it's included elsewhere. It's in my other Word document. So let's have a look at the letter. To whom it may concern. Jonathan Smith has worked for me at XYZ Company for 5 years and has continually impressed me with his professionalism, determination, and dedication to his career. During his time at this company, he has risen from a marketing intern to the assistant director of marketing and has played a tremendous role in the success of our marketing department over the past few years. Jonathan has excellent communication and project management skills and is highly organized and able to lead large marketing teams for a variety of projects. His dedication to his role within the company and his willingness to go above and beyond to ensure that clients' expectations are not only met but exceeded have made him a valuable asset at XYZ Company. I would highly recommend Jonathan for the position of Director of Marketing at your company. He would be a great asset and would positively contribute to your organization with his tremendous marketing skill set, as well as his qualifications and background in marketing. If you have any questions regarding Jonathan's abilities, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Sarah Jones, President of XYZ Company, Alphabet Street, Tampa Bay, Florida. All right, so we've got the audience. I could just say the letter was addressed to, and it was specifically to whom it may concern. So, which means that it was not sent to a specific person, but it was sent to a specific company. Um, um, let's see, the company is not named. So you could say the purpose is, and if you really want to get really specific about this, you could even talk about how this is an example of a letter. Um, but you don't have to. I would just talk about the letter as if it's actually it's one you found in the real world. Its purpose is to help someone get a job, right? Through a professional reference. Objections. There are none. The benefits, Jonathan's work abilities and fit for the director job. The whole letter is about making him look good. Look good slash convince the employer to hire him. And again, there's no benefits, no negativity here. It's all positive, which is very common for a letter of recommendation. You shouldn't have any negativity, really. If you ask somebody for a letter of recommendation and they start putting in all your faults in it, then you've probably asked the wrong person for a letter of recommendation. The information presented, and then here you could actually, count them. It's like there was what three paragraphs. You could break them down by what they talk about, by their topic. Intent. That describe his past achievements as an employee, and what he could potentially do in the future. In the context, I would imagine that this guy Jonathan is seeking a job, and what's he doing? He's asking someone to vouch for him, right? To vouch for him, or recommend him, right? So that's really what you're doing. Is you're doing that PyBock model, and then what you'll do is you can just sort of copy and paste that text, or if you're doing it with a pen and pad, you can then just repeat the information, but do the analysis first, and then write about it, right? So and then for the analysis itself, you could just be like, you could say something like, this is a letter of recommendation written by, dot 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 for the purpose of, dot dot dot, and then you go on from there and just kind of break down the article itself, and that's your analysis of it. You might want to talk about how successful you think this document will be in terms of achieving its purpose. Right, because that's an analysis too, right? So you're analyzing the thing itself, but you might want to you can also offer your opinion, right? If you want, right? You can just say like you know you know and that's sort of like the context of it, right? And again, those are my notes to myself that I may or may not follow exactly, but it just sort of gives me a guideline forward. And so you'll do that. In terms of finding an instruction manual, I think in the year 2023, if you just simply Google instruction manual, online, you'll find you've got manuals.ca. That's the one I was thinking about. And I would just find a manual online. You don't need to write an analysis of it. You just got to find one. So Pioneer. Let's see. I got a home cinema set. Yeah. So you just got to find a manual, and then just even if you just sort of like type out the URL, you know, where the source you found it. So yeah, and that's more than okay for the manual. You can do that. So instead of doing like that, I would just do, you know, instructional manual. Source could be manuals.ca, and then just sort of let me know a URL, right? Where tell me where you found it exactly, right? So type out the full website address, and that's totally fine for the instructional manual. And then really the only aspect of the assignment that we haven't talked about is the email and the voicemail recording, right? So email to your teacher, and then a voicemail to your teacher. And then I should note that you know, your message can simply be you reading the email out loud. So basically what I'm saying, you can use the exact same words/wording, and that again kind of speaks to information, right? So you can have the exact same information just presented in a different format, right? So a voicemail recording versus sending somebody an email. And sometimes it's nice to kind of type your thoughts out before you send somebody a message and just know exactly what you want to say, so you're not stumbling over your words and saying and ah like I do all the time. I can't help it, but I'm guilty of that, right? So it tells you a script, and if you can read off a script or just have some point form notes, it'll make yourself sound, much more intelligent. And sometimes we don't do ourselves any favors, and it sometimes it helps to just plan out what you want to say ahead of time, and then it makes you look organized, and looks like you have purpose and intention, right? And you have aspirations, and you're after something and you want it, right? So that's what people want to see, right? I want this job. Here's where I want it. So your email to your teacher should have like some kind of a salutation, like hello, you know, I am something like this, like I am enrolled in ENG4E and completing the culminating activity. What's it? Researching and understanding forms. I found my documents using, or by consulting, I don't know, asking, researching, whatever the verb might be, the following sources. And then you would, input sources here. So again, I like to just give myself notes, give myself instructions. I found. Well, that's it. That's actually all the time we do have for today, but I think that's enough. I think I've given you enough guidance to complete that culminating activity. So I look forward to seeing your work, and we will jump into Unit 4 starting tomorrow. Have a great day.